Hey, this is Zaccheus with another live word of the day. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. And if you're coming in for the first time, I thank you. If you've been consistently supporting me, thank you. I really appreciate it. But on today's episode, I entitled it, Let's Talk Budget Cuts. Now, today, what's today's date? Today, September 30th. I'm hearing about government lockdown. Heard that before. Heard it before. Nothing really happened. But what's really happening is those cuts into governmental programs. Programs to help 9-to-5ers like myself. Programs to help people with making low wages. Programs to the American people are worried about. Which program, which resourceful program is getting cut? And under the Trump administration, things have changed. The regime has changed, and these cuts are here already. And things has changed with certain resources, programs that serve the public and with a big benefit to the public. But since the Trump administration has come, there's been serious talks about cuts and what's being cut back and the changes in these programs that I'm going to share with you today. And this is something that if you're a 9-to-5er, or if you're a person that's making maybe $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year, and living in the major expensive cities, you got to listen to this video. Well, this is Zaccheus with another live word. Let's dive in. Now, according to the sources, Snap, about 2.4 million people are about 6% of enrollees could lose access to their supplemental nutrition assistance program. That's what SNAP is, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. In other words, that low minimum wage or low wage earners can have SNAP, and it's supposed to provide nutritious food. It's because, let's face it, when you go to the market, the nutritious food is the most expensive, and it's the junk like bagged potato chips and certain foods that are not good for us that are cheap. So, and if you cut down SNAP, it's hard to get SNAP, very difficult to get SNAP. But many people I know that attempted to get SNAP can't get SNAP, and they're not making enough money. But it's very difficult. They put you through the rigmarole, ask you all these questions on when you go to the office, the SNAP office. They ask you all these questions, and you gotta get on the interview. They give you like a ticket to get on the interview on the phone, and then they determine whether you get it or not. And sometimes because of their decisions, you still don't get it. Well, because of the new laws changes, which include stricter work requirements, the Congressional Budget Office estimated last month. This was 3 days ago, but I have an article here that's going to stand out more about what they're doing in SNAP, because many Americans, they get SNAP, and some people try to attempt to get SNAP, but now they made it more harder. So I have an article right here I'm going to share. I just read to you about SNAP now, and I have an article I'm going to share about SNAP.
Starting today, millions of Americans could see their grocery budget shrink. The largest cut to food stamp benefits in U.S. history is now in effect, and officials estimate 2.4 million people will qualify each month. 2.4 million fewer people will qualify each month for those benefits. Fox 13's Evan Moon looked at the impacts of the changes to the SNAP program.
40 million Americans use SNAP benefits, and Florida has one of the highest enrollments. But with new work requirements, many could lose access. I spoke with local food banks like the one behind me that worry families could go hungry. 3 million Floridians are estimated to be using SNAP, 12% of the state's population, providing groceries to low-income families.
I only had $23 in food stamps, and I had to make that scratch, and it was not enough whatsoever.
You all got the same story, but there's no help. It's very hard to figure out how I'm going to feed my son and my daughter every night.
On average, it's about $6.12 a day, but starting this week, millions will lose eligibility.
There are children that will not have access to healthy food, right? There are families that will struggle to put good, healthy food on their tables. These have long-term repercussions.
Harsher requirements could put more strain on nonprofit food kitchens like Feeding Tampa Bay.
We're already looking after 1 million folks every day who need our support across the 10 counties we serve. They're already struggling. This will add several 100,000 new folks to our care.
The new work requirements expand working age to 64, up from 49, and require 20 hours of work per week. And exemptions for being a parent now cut off when kids are 7 years old, not 18.
Making further cuts for people who need this assistance is just going to make it so people have to make really difficult decisions.
Rep. Cross says this can lead to long-term health issues for thousands.
Often people that have less money go towards cheaper food rather than some healthier things like fresh produce, proteins, fresh, eggs and dairy.
The hopes in Washington are that these billion-dollar cuts save Americans money.
If you want to buy a sugary soda, you ought to be able to do that. The U.S. taxpayer should not pay for it.
Starting next year, soda, energy drinks, gum, and prepared desserts will not be included in SNAP benefits. States will now cover 75% of SNAP costs, up from 50%.
It's just another attack on, people who are struggling to get by already. It also puts more administrative burden on our state. And we see that, the federal government is shifting a lot of responsibilities to the states, anything from looking at cuts to FEMA, to the SNAP benefits program.
The changes starting today are part of a decade-long plan to cut $186 billion from SNAP. States will take on most of the cost from there. In Tampa, Evan Moon, Fox 13 News.
This really hurts because, you see, some Americans been on SNAP for years, and now they made the requirements more harder. And by cutting the SNAP benefits, cutting it down to a minimum, only 2 years, and they gotta work up to 64. It's only for the elderly and certain people that have a lot of kids. They can't. It's gonna be difficult for them because they're still young with children. Now, because you can afford the most expensive, like what the anchor woman said, because you can afford the food that is nutritious and that is better for you is more expensive. Now you gotta set up for food that's not so good for us. It has to do with the administration. But what if there's people that are understanding that there's people that still need it? There's still people that need those resources to rely on it. For years, they've been relying on it. And it's not easy to mind children and you gotta go out there to work. You're working and always spending away from your children. It's not easy. So to cut down SNAP is injustice. To cut down SNAP, the supplemental program where people do need it, it's not right. It's not right. Now, SNAP is there to give us resources so we can afford nutritious food. Now, diabetes is big. Hypertension is big, especially diabetes. It's very big in our community. It's big. And they need the foods, the better foods to help children with their brain, memory, and proper nutrition. And by cutting SNAP, see, people that have it, I mean the 1%, some of them will never understand that. They will never understand it. Now, when it comes to homes, that's even being cut. HUD. Let me get into an article that I found out about HUD. Let's talk Section 8, equal housing opportunity. Rumors about Section 8 being cut are tied to proposed budget cuts and structural changes, but these proposals have not yet been approved. They haven't been approved yet by Congress. Significant uncertainty exists, so they're still in this undecided. They're still in decision making about Section 8. Because I heard stories about the Section 8 being only a minute, but you can only stay on Section 8 for 2 years, and that's able-bodied people for 2 years, and then you got to find a job. And the future of the program as of late September 2025 due to ongoing congressional negotiations. So there's still negotiation about equal housing opportunities, Section 8. So still negotiating, see where they're going to go with that. I'm praying that it just stays where it's at, because financially, a lot of Americans can't afford to just stay in it for 2 years, and sometimes need a longer time to look for a job, look for more job opportunities out there, or maybe go online and look for something that they can do to help their families out. And Section 8 still negotiable, but I'm gonna get into an article. I'm gonna share a person, an expert, a broker that's very versed in this matter.
Cut Section 8. So Donald Trump just proposed that in 2026, we could see the Department of Housing and Urban Development be cut by 43%. That is almost $27 billion that would be cut. And this department is responsible for Section 8 and rental assistance. So his proposal is trying to cut a significant amount and then put more pressure on local government to be in charge of rental assistance. It also proposed that able-bodied adults would only get 2 years of rental assistance. And they're doing that to prioritize the elderly and disabled. And as a landlord and real estate investor, I'm not going to lie, it's a little concerning, because my strategy right now is to buy rental property and then rent them out on Section 8 to try to help people that do not have the income to afford a single family home. And if this cut happens, it's going to be very concerning, because I don't trust local government to step up and fill in that extra 43% that's missing. And a lot of people are going to say this is clickbait. So if you want my resources, comment the word Section 8 and I will send you a link with everything that I'm reading. And let me know in the comments, do you think it is fair for Donald Trump to cut 43% of HUD's budget?
Let's turn to the scripture. Isaiah 24, verses 4. For you have been a stronghold to the poor, a stronghold to the needy in distress, a shelter from the storm, and a shade from the heat. For the breath of the rootless is like a storm against the wall. So do your best you can to help people in need. And I'm talking to the brokers, to the ones who own property and is renting out to people that's in need. Because a lot of Americans can't afford. They're just grouping up. All families are grouping up together, and they can't afford to pay the rent. Rent in New York City is $4,700 a month. Some apartments. This is not even homes. It's not apartments. $5,000. I seen apartments for $6,000. When I look up Zelly and you go on some sites, look up apartments for rent. It's crazy. So Section 8 don't need to be cut. Section 8 needs to stay put where it's at. Why? Because there's a lot of people, like what the broker said, listen, I tried to get people, the people don't have the income to afford where they live, so I tried to provide that so people can actually live basic life. We're not talking about a lavish life. We're talking about basic living. Basic life, basic living. Basic life, basic living. So, and the Bible is right, Isaiah 25, 24, verses 4. a stronghold. You see people struggle in distress. Like right now in Florida, right now, even in New York City too. I have to put New York City in this too, because this is where I live. But distressed state because people are not making enough income to afford where they live. The cost of living is almost similar to New York City, but the pay that they receive is peanuts because it is not keeping up with the cost of what they get, the wages that they receive on their jobs is not keeping up with the cost of living. And that's a problem in many cities, in many states. And it's a serious matter that the basic way of life became difficult and it became stressful. Now, let's go into the health field now. Medicaid and Medicare. Now, according to this article I just found, because I heard about the cuts in Medicaid and Medicare, which would devastate a lot of elderly people that are not rich, devastate elderly people that's on a fixed income. You heard what I said? On a fixed income, just to collect Social Security and the little pension that they get once a month, and Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. Now, Trump Medicaid cuts will devastate schools and communities. Congress passed Trump's mega bill with 1 trillion in cuts in Medicaid, shrinking the program that tens of millions of families rely on. Healthcare, all in the name of the tax breaks for the wealthy. Now you just read, listen, tax breaks for the wealthy. But what about the hardworking man? But yet they want your vote. How about the hardworking man? How about the hardworking 9 to 5 that keeps this economy going? Well, tax break for the 1%, but no breaks for the hardworking man, the 9 to 5, or the low wage earner. It's gonna devastate a lot of families. Devastate a lot of families. Let's hear what this nurse has to say about it.
You Care, one of Minnesota's largest nonprofit insurers, just announced it will no longer offer Medicare Advantage plans in 2026. So that's a big deal because 158,000 seniors will now be forced to find new coverage during open enrollment this fall. As a nurse, I can't help but think about how disruptive this is going to be. Medicare Advantage plans aren't just about coverage, they're about continuity of care. So losing your insurer means switching doctors, new formularies, and higher risk of medication errors or delays in treatment. And it's not just the patients that are affected. You Care is laying off more than 140 employees. So that's nearly 9% of its workforce after already cutting 80 earlier this year. The company reported massive losses, over $500 million with a B dollars in 2024. So now it's shifting focus to Medicaid, special needs programs, and individual coverage instead. UCare held a 26% share of Minnesota's Medicare Advantage market, second only to Blue Cross Blue Shield. So with both UCare and United Healthcare cutting back on these plans, hundreds of thousands of seniors across the country will definitely feel the impact. So this is a reminder that healthcare coverage is not guaranteed. It's a business. And patients, especially our older adults, are the ones caught in the middle.
Nurses got information from the nurse. You heard it. People are losing income, but it's gonna affect the elderly, middle class, the elderly. Some of the elderly is middle class. Most of them, a lot of them, a lot of American elderly senior citizens. Trump's big ugly law triggers 536 billion in Medicare cuts. Like I said before, I just read the article showed proof that it's tax breaks for the 1%. Now, ask me if they care about the struggling American. Ask me if they care about the elderly or the veterans. Ask, leave a comment. They do care, because the Republican Party, Trump administration, it's like tax breaks for the 1%, the rich. But you gotta worry about where your next meal is gonna come, where your next health coverage, because without health coverage in this country, medication is expensive, doctor bills are extremely expensive. Your medical bills can rocket to the moon, extremely expensive. And Medicaid and Medicare provides coverage. And if you don't have that coverage, where are you gonna get the money? If you're elderly and you're only getting you're on a fixed income. See how it's unfair? We could be working a lot and still it's not enough to cover the expense of the high cost of living. And the main goal is to always provide for your family and always make sure that you're secured. Wife and children are secured, but both people gotta work, both people gotta provide, both husband and wife, or both or a single parent gotta provide for their family. And when these certain resources are getting cut, it's how is it helping? Yes, it's pushing you to the workforce and make you get up and work. If SNAP is cut and certain programs are cut, like welfare, certain programs are cut. But in this day and age right now, you gotta find ways not to rely on these resources. That's what it teaches me. You gotta find ways to build your own income, whether it's through investments, like I said before, on the brokerage accounts, Charles Schwab, Weevil. We can start there, and you don't need a whole lot of money to invest in these brokerage accounts. All you need is $5. $5 is to get started to invest in to get a share and to invest in a brokerage account. So you can start with $5 and learn about REITs. Just don't invest, but learn about REITs, because REITs put money in your pocket. Dividends, but puts money in your pocket when you invest in these stocks. These are certain things that I didn't know about when I was coming up. I didn't know about them, but these are things that we can tap into to learn about and start thinking entrepreneurial. I know you need money to invest, but his income tax season is coming. Start thinking about what could I do to invest now that I have this money in my hand, all this money. Do I go on to a nice trip? Do I buy expensive clothes? Do I buy expensive shoes? Or how can I buy a share in this company? I buy Colgate all the time. Let me see if I could buy a share in Colgate. I buy Nike all the time. Let me see if I could buy a share in Nike. These are things that we got to think about. When we do, we got to think about investments, because investments is what makes you wealthy. Not working for somebody. Not working for somebody. We got to think out the box. We cannot just rely on these programs, because as you can see, they're changing and they make it very difficult for you to get into these programs. They make it even harder now. You have to have proof of this, I have proof of that. And even if you have all that proof, it's not guaranteed that they'll give it to you. So, and they dig in. Once they interview you, they dig into your life. They want to know this about this. They want to know that. If you're married, and they dig into you. So we gotta start relying on what do we do for that extra $25 or that extra, and say $100, $200 laying around. Let's see if we can flip it into something that can make us more money. Whether it's online, yeah, online basically. Stocks, these little digital e-commerce stores. We gotta start thinking like that. What can we do? What can we do? So we don't have to rely on these governmental resources that are, because every few months or every year they're changing. That's how it's gonna be. The key thing is to work smarter, not harder. Why would you want to work 30 years and then gotta go back to work? The key thing is to work smarter, not harder. After 30 years, you want to retire. Why would you work for somebody else after 30 years? Think about that. Now, the live word of the day is coming out of Proverbs 19:17. Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will repay him for his deeds. So if you have resources to help people, you have something that's valuable to yourself to help you out, but you share it to a person that's struggling, that's in need, you'll be repaid. You'll be repaid. You reap good seeds, and you'll be blessed. You'll be blessed. So if you lend to somebody that's in need, or share information to somebody that's in need, you'll be blessed. You'll be blessed because you're helping them out, get off their feet. You're helping them out, whether they have to feed their families. You're making a difference in their life. But this is Zaccheus with another live word of the day. And if you like what I shared, that's what's going on. If you like what I shared, smash the like button. Also subscribe to my channel. I got more articles coming for you, more news coming for you, more live word of the day coming for you. Well, this is Zaccheus with another live word of the day. God bless and be safe out there. Peace and blessings. Until next time.